Thank you, Austin. The Honorable John Lewis is one of America's giant figures. He is an esteemed national leader, widely recognized as a great humanitarian and champion of civil rights and social justice. Many of you know that throughout the spring semester, the University of Mary Washington has been commemorating the 50th anniversary of the 1961 Freedom Rides. Our celebration has featured nationally prominent speakers, on-campus exhibits, film showings, and visits by many of the individuals who took part in the Freedom Rides. Celebrating this important chapter in the history of the civil rights movement has been particularly fitting here at UMW, as Dr. James Farmer, National Director of the Congress of Racial Equality, or CORE, and architect of the Freedom Rides, was a distinguished professor at Mary Washington for many years, and he remains a revered figure at this university today. It is such an honor to have Congressman John Lewis as our 100th commencement speaker. Not only was John Lewis a personal friend and colleague of Dr. Farmer, but he is one of the original Freedom Riders. In May 1961, exactly 50 years ago, John Lewis, along with James Farmer and 11 other incredibly brave and committed souls, climbed aboard 2 commercial buses in Washington, D.C., and headed out on a perilous journey into the Deep South, designed to challenge racial discrimination in interstate transportation and facilities, and to prompt the federal government to enforce the laws of the land. At that time, John Lewis was a young college student at the American Bible Theological Seminary in Nashville, Tennessee. When the first Freedom Ride ran into major trouble in Anniston and Birmingham, Alabama, with bus burnings and severe mob violence, the Freedom Ride strategy was on the verge of collapse. However, John Lewis, along with a committed band of courageous college students from Nashville, steadfastly refused to let the plan die and literally rode to the rescue. Through their efforts, the Freedom Rides prevailed through the summer and fall of 1961, ultimately involving more than 400 individuals from across the country. In the end, they were successful in striking down Jim Crow segregation practices in interstate transportation. As a Freedom Rider, John Lewis bravely demonstrated his commitment to nonviolent social action. In the pursuit of the beloved community, he willingly suffered indignation, beating, arrest, and imprisonment. Lewis continued to be a great leader through the entire course of the civil rights movement. He was named chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and as such, became known, along with Dr. James Farmer and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., as a member of the Big Six leaders of the civil rights movement. He was at the forefront of the 1963 March on Washington, the Mississippi Freedom Summer, the Selma Bloody Sunday March, and many other events that transformed America, all the while maintaining his steadfast commitment to a personal philosophy of nonviolence. John Lewis was elected to the Congress of the United States in 1986, and since has served with distinction as the U.S. Representative to Georgia's 5th Congressional District. He has been honored by his fellow citizens with numerous awards and commendations, and by honorary degrees from many outstanding colleges and universities. In February, President Barack Obama bestowed on him our nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Notably, that same honor was accorded to James Farmer in 1998, and John Lewis played a significant role in promoting that recognition for Dr. Farmer. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a high honor and great privilege to present to you for our 100th commencement address, the Honorable Congressman John Lewis of Georgia.
President Hurley, members of the board, distinguished faculty, parents, family, and friends, and to the class of 2011, thank you for this great honor. I'm delighted and very pleased to be with you on this important occasion. To each and every one of you who are also receiving a diploma today, I say congratulations. Congratulations. This is your day. Enjoy it. Embrace it. Breathe. Take it all in. I'm going to be very brief today because today is your day, and as I said before, enjoy it. This is a beautiful day, wonderful day. I'm so pleased and delighted that your president invited me to be here to join you as you celebrate the legacy of one of your great professors, one of the big six leaders of the civil rights movement, James Farmer. And to help you commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Freedom Rides. Back in 1961, 50 years ago, I had all of my hair and a few pounds lighter. 21 years old, a student, when I left to go on the Freedom Ride. So I want to thank the faculty, the president, the board, and all of you gifted and smart students for what you have done. No other university, no other college in America is pausing like you have to celebrate and commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Freedom Ride. So I come here to say thank you. Thank you. The University of Mary Washington is a bright light in the work that must take place to educate all of our citizens about the issues of civil rights, human rights, and social justice. As we look around us in the world today, we find there's still a need to struggle for peace and for justice in our society. And throughout the month, you have focused on the history of the Freedom Rides. You have discovered that the cause of civil rights is not just the legacy of one group, of one people, but all Americans. We all must play a role in helping to build a just and open society. Now, I didn't grow up in a big city. I grew up in a farm in rural Alabama. My father was a sharecropper, a tenant farmer. But back in 1944, when I was 4 years old, and I do remember when I was 4, how many of you graduates remember when you was 4? What happened to the rest of us? But back in 1944, when I was 4 years old, my father had saved $300. And with the $300, he bought 110 acres of land. We still own that land today. On this farm, we raised a lot of cotton and corn, peanuts, hogs, cows, and chickens. I know here at this great university, some of you are very smart, you're gifted, you're talented, but you don't know anything about raising chickens. Some of you know about Popeyes, Kentucky Fried, chicken, what we have in Georgia, Chick-fil-A, but you don't know anything about raising chicken. Let me tell you what I had to do as a young boy growing up in rural Alabama. It was my responsibility to care for the chickens. And I fell in love with raising chickens like no one else could raise chickens. Let me tell you what I had to do. Let's compare some notes here. as they take the fresh eggs, mark them with a pencil, place them under the setting hen, and wait for 3 long weeks for the little chicks to hatch. Some of you smart students, and maybe some of your professors are saying, now, John Lewis, why do you mark those fresh eggs with a pencil before you place them under the setting hen? Well, from time to time, another hen would get on that same nest, and there would be some more eggs. You had to be able to tell the fresh eggs from the eggs that were already under the setting hen. Do you follow me? No, you don't follow me. It's okay. But these little chicks would hatch. I would fool these setting hens. I would cheat on these setting hens. I would take these little chicks and put them in a box with a lantern, raise them on their own. Or take these little chicks and give them to another hen and get some more fresh eggs and mark them with a pencil, place them under the setting hen, encourage the setting hen to stay on their nest for another 3 weeks. When I look back on it, it was not the right thing to do. It was not the moral thing to do. It was not the most loving thing to do. It was not the most nonviolent thing to do. It was not the legal thing to do. But I was never quite able to save $18.98 to order the most inexpensive incubator or hatcher from the Southern Roebuck store. So I just kept on cheating on these setting hen. And as a graduate, you're too young to remember. But we used to get the Southern Roebuck catalog. Some people call it the ordering book. Other people call it the Whoosh book. Maybe your grandparents, maybe some of your parents will know about that big book, heavy. We used to order everything. Call it the Whoosh book and say, I wish I had this, I wish I had that. But as a young child, about 8 or 9 years old, I wanted to be a minister. I wanted to preach the gospel. So from time to time, with the help of my brothers and sisters and my first cousins, we would gather all of our chickens together in the chicken yard like you're gathered here. My brothers and sisters and cousins would line the outside of the chicken yard. And then I would start speaking or preaching. And when I look back on it, some of these chickens would bow their heads. Some of these chickens would shake their heads. They never quite said amen. But I'm convinced that some of those chickens that I preached to in the 40s and the 50s tended to listen to me much better than some of my colleagues listen to me today in the Congress. As a matter of fact, some of those chickens were just a little more productive. At least they produce eggs. A few years ago, when I was a little boy and would visit the little town of Troy, visit Montgomery, visit Tuskegee, I saw those signs that said white men, colored men, white women, colored women, white waiting, colored waiting. As a young child, I tasted the bitter fruits of segregation and racial discrimination. And I would come home and ask my mother, my father, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, why segregation, why racial discrimination? And they would say, that's the way it is. Don't get in the way. Don't get in trouble. In 1955, age of 15 in the 10th grade, I heard of Rosa Parks. I heard the words of Martin Luther King Jr. on the old radio. It seemed like Dr. King was speaking directly to me, saying, John Lewis, you too can do something. You can make a contribution. So I was inspired more than 50 years ago to find a way to get in the way. I got in trouble. It was good trouble, necessary trouble. James Farmer and the Freedom Rides 50 years ago got in trouble, necessary trouble, good trouble to bring down those signs that said white men, white women, white waiting, color waiting. Those signs are gone, and they will not return. As young people, your children and their children, the only place they will see those signs will be in a book, in a museum, on a video. We live in a better world. We live in a better country. we are on our way toward the creation of the beloved community where we can lay down the burden of race and create a society where we can forget about race. Another generation of young people, another generation of students and teachers, men and women, black and white, just 50 years ago, not long ago, laid aside their own well-being and got involved in the circumstances of others. And sometimes people ask me whether we have witnessed great change. And some people say nothing has changed. And I just say, come and walk in my shoes, and I'll show you change. Just think, when we went on the Freedom Ride in 1961, the same year that Barack Obama, the president, was born. Just think about it. The Freedom Ride, the spring and summer of '61. President Obama was not even born until August the 4th, 1961. That in America, black and white men and women couldn't be seated together on a Greyhound bus or Trailway bus traveling through the South. In some towns, we couldn't even eat at a lunch counter in a restaurant. Couldn't use the same restroom facilities. Couldn't ride in the same taxi cab. Our world is a different world. Our world is a better world. James Farmer, this brilliant organizer with a great voice, he could sing, and we did sing. When we were beaten, arrested, jailed, we kept singing. We kept praying. We didn't give up. We didn't give in. We didn't give out. We kept the faith. We kept our eyes on the prize. And I said to you young graduates, you must never ever give up. You must never ever give in. Get out there, push and pull, and do your part in creating the beloved community, in redeeming the soul of America. You can do it. You must do it. You know, early in my life, with individuals like James Farmer, I got arrested a few times, about 40 during the 60s. Seen a lot of jails. Had the help of a lot of wonderful people, wonderful lawyers. Beaten, left bloody during the Freedom Ride. On May 9th, 1961, we arrived at the Greyhound bus station in Rock Hill, South Carolina. A group of young men came and attacked us. But one of the same young men that attacked me on May 9th, 1961, and my seatmate, a young white gentleman, 2 years ago, one of these young people, he's not so young, he's about my age, a little older, he came to my office and said, "Congressman, I beat you in Rock Hill, South Carolina. I want to apologize. Will you forgive me?" He started crying. He gave me a hug. I started crying and hugging back. Just a few days ago, Oprah had us on her show. More than 180 some of the Freedom Riders. That's what the movement was all about, to build a sense of community, a sense of family. We are one family, we are one house. We all live in the same house. Not just the house of Virginia or the house of Georgia, but we all live in the same house because we are one people. So it doesn't matter whether we're black or white, Latino or Asian American or Native American. We're one people. Just maybe our foremothers and our forefathers all came to this great land in different ships, but we're all in the same boat now. Let me say, as graduates, as students of the University of Mary Washington, you must stand up. You must speak up. You must speak out. You have a mandate, a mission, and a moral obligation. You must go out and do the hard and necessary work, not just here in our own country, but around the world. We must create a world community at peace with itself. I want to tell you one little story, and I will be finished. When I was growing up outside of Troy, Alabama, about 50 miles from Montgomery, I had an aunt by the name of Seneva. And my aunt Seneva lived in what we call a shotgun house. I know what I'm talking about because I was born in a shotgun house. My Aunt Seneva didn't have a green manicured lawn. Had a simple, plain dirt yard. Sometime at night, you can look up through the holes in the ceiling, through the holes in the tin roof, and count the stars. When it would rain, she would get a pail, a bucket, or a tub, and catch the rainwater. From time to time, she would walk out into the woods and cut branches from a dogwood tree and tie these branches together and make a broom, and she called that broom the brush broom. And she would sweep this dirt yard very clean, sometimes 2 and 3 times a week, but especially on a Friday or Saturday, because she wanted that dirt yard to look very good during the weekend. For you young graduates who may not know what a shotgun house is, in a nonviolent sense, it's an old house, one way in, where you can bounce a basketball through the front door and it will go straight through the back door. My Aunt Seneva lived in a shotgun house. But one Saturday afternoon, a few of my brothers and sisters and a few of my first cousins, about 12 or 15 of us young children, I playing in my Aunt Seneva dirt yard. And an unbelievable storm came up. The wind started blowing. The thunder started rolling. The lightning started flashing. And the rain started beating on the tin roof of this old shotgun house. My aunt got all of us little children together and told us to hold hands. The wind continued to blow. The thunder continued to roll. The lightning continued to flash. And the rain continued to beat on the tin roof of this old shotgun house. My aunt started crying. And all of us little children started crying because we thought this old house was going to blow away. So when one corner of this old house appeared to be lifting from its foundation, my aunt had us to walk to that corner to try to hold the house down with our little bodies. When the other corner appeared to be lifting, had us to walk to that side. We were little children walking with the wind, but we never, ever left the house. You must never, ever leave the house. My friends, the storm may come. The wind may blow. The thunder may roll. The lightning may flash. And the rain may beat down on our old house. Call it the house of UMW. Call it the house of Virginia. Call it the house of Georgia, or California, or New York. Call it the house of Alabama. Call it the American house. We all live in the same house. I said to you, as you leave this university, as you leave this little piece of real estate, you still have the power to change the social, economic, and political structures around you. You still have the power to lead a nonviolent revolution of values and ideas in your community and around the world. If you use that power, if you use your education, use your talent, use your skill, if you use that power, then a new and better world is yours to build. So I said to you today, walk with the wind, and let the spirit of history, the spirit of UMW, and the spirit of the Freedom Rides be your guide. Thank you very much.
Wow. I gotta collect myself here to move on. Congressman Lewis, thank you so much for being part of our ceremony today. Your presence with us makes this a very special occasion indeed in the life of our university.